for those of you that are struggling out there, whatever it is your struggle is, whether it's financial, mental, health, whatever it is, I mean, just keep searching for the answers until you find it. And they're there, and they'll be there. And so I don't want you to feel like you're stuck in a situation that is terrible that you can't get out of. So I've had to dig myself out of many holes in my life as I've gone on my journey of healing and trying to do business and so on and so forth. So as long as you keep trekking along, you're going to have the answers that you need.
Welcome to yourbrilliance.com. I'm your host, Amy Waterman. Have you ever wanted to walk away from your life? Like leave it all behind, like eat, pray, love, and find yourself and just feel free at last? I think we have all had that fantasy. Life can get really, really heavy, and there's so much pressure on us. So we end up falling in line and doing what we're expected to do. But our guest for today did not do what everyone expected her to do. She went on her own Eat, Pray, Love journey, and when she returned, she had found her mission. Today, she helps people live life to the fullest by getting to the root of their health challenges and restoring vibrant health. Dr. Jacqueline is a board-certified doctor of natural medicine, a master herbalist, a certified nutritional counselor, and a certified personal trainer. She's also the host of the Wellness Trinity podcast, where she explores natural solutions to modern-day wellness. Welcome, Dr. Jacqueline.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So I am really interested. You study so many different areas of health. You've studied fitness, you've studied nutrition, and yet your passion is actually mental health. So why is that?
Honestly, just health in general is my passion. But at some point, to be honest, when you're in a business, you try to find a target customer. And it just came in line with me, actually, when I started really thinking about what interests me, what really interests me. And one thing that has always interested me is psychology and how the brain works. And when I started finding out how intertwined our physical chemistry is with our mental wellness, I was surprised. And I had no idea. I thought, oh, it's all spiritual, or it's all what we feed our mind with. What do we read every day? Who do we surround ourselves by? But I had no idea how much our physical chemistry affected our body. And when I went on my own journey, I realized as I was peeling layers of toxins and infections off, how much it affected myself. And then I look back now and I'm like, oh my gosh, my whole family, they all need to detox their parasites and their heavy metals. And I mean, I was growing up in this mush pot of craziness, it felt like. So, I mean, just because of that alone, it made me really interested in wanting to help other people. Because when you have freedom in your emotions and your mental wellness, and you can just feel free in general, I mean, the opportunities are at your fingertips, and just peace is in your heart. So I just am excited that I could share that with the world.
I love the idea of a healing journey where you go and you actually look at the things that you've been carrying and work them through. But so many of us are, we're not trapped in our everyday lives, but we're kind of, there's really no wiggle room. How do you think that those of us who can't just leave it all behind and go on a healing journey, how can we find that same sense of freedom?
In this season where people are maybe still quarantined, I think a lot of people are coming out of their homes now, but who knows what our new normal is really, and if we're going to ever be quarantined again or whatnot. But let's just say for now, a lot of people are probably stuck in their homes, and I think that it's a great time. It's a great time to be silent. It's a great time to get those messages and put some good inspirational YouTubes on and follow people that like this podcast, which is all about living your best life, and really try to think about what do you want in life, and then go from there. Do your research. I mean, there's research and there's studying, and then also becoming really in tune with who we really are inside. That all comes within that. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but but all that to say, it doesn't matter where you are in life. We can receive those messages of who we really are and what we really love, and then just continue to take steps. It's not like we sit there stagnant and thinking that we're going to have all the answers.
So for you, I know that health is very much mind, body, spirit integrated. And we've talked a little bit about spirit, we've talked a little bit about mind, but it's really interesting to me that you were talking about the physical components of mental health and how actually things like parasites can affect how you feel and mental clarity. And I know that you actually have developed an entire program to help people get better mental clarity through working with these components. So could you tell us a little bit about how that affects, how it affects how physical health affects our mental health?
Yeah, so it goes both ways. Our mental health affects our physical health affects our mental health. And I'm sure different experts will say different things on how much which one affects which more. Um, I just can't help but think there's a huge component of our physical health that affects our mental health because we're organic matter, first of all. We're a bunch of minerals, and we come from the dirt, we go back to the dirt. So we're oxygen, we're mostly oxygen, and we're mostly hydrogen and carbon. And then we're about 4% minerals. So, oxygen to begin with, if we don't have enough oxygen, then our brain cannot function right. So a lot of the oxygen that we consume goes to our brain. And if we don't even deep breathe or connect with nature, which is where we get a lot of our oxygen from nature, because it comes from trees and it comes from plants. So that we have this symbiotic relationship where we give nature what they need with the carbon dioxide, and they give us what we need with the oxygen. So we're so far removed from that in most places in the world. I lived in California, I lived in Las Vegas, which that was not a very good place for having lots of oxygen in the environment. And then, now I live in the forest, which I'm just so blessed. I just feel healthier because I'm living with trees. So, then you have things like chemicals. So we're just literally dumping chemicals in the environment, from the planes to the cars to the foods that we're just throwing them in, etc. So this onslaught of chemical toxicity, which there's about 80,000 or more chemicals in the environment, is causing a dysbiosis in the gut. And because of that, then we have, and it could be in all over places. We have a microbiome all over our body. There's little bugs everywhere, basically. We don't really think of ourselves as made up of all these little bugs, but that's really what it is. And so these chemicals mess it up. When we lather these lotions on our skin, when we put toxic hair care in our hair and our makeup, and etc. And so it causes the body to grow these parasites out of control, because they're like a buffer mechanism. And what happens is that these toxins and other infections that will grow out of control, they live inside of inside of the parasites. So the parasites, the problem with them is, as they grow out of control, they eat your food. So they're taking your nutrients, and they poop in your body. I know it sounds foul, and that's what is really going on. So when I talk about parasite cleansing and really moving out the big things out of people that don't belong, some people get freaked out. And I'm like, I'm more freaked out that it's in you than than it coming out of you, honestly, because exactly what I just said. It's eating your food and pooping your body. Not okay, in my opinion. So anyways, the other side of it is there's a huge connection between our gut and our brain. We have this vagus nerve that connects our brain and our gut together. And so it sends signals back and forth. So these little bugs, they can affect our brain and our mental function as well too. Our frontal lobe it has a lot to do with our emotions. So when you have little critters growing out of control, like parasites, and then you have things like heavy metal toxicity, candida overgrowth, etc., all these different infections and toxins are causing an onslaught of damage on our brain. And then the other side of it is, so we talk about homeostasis, where we're happiest and healthiest, which is like a flat line, I like to call it. If we have too much of a bad thing, so we talked about the infections and toxins, or we have not enough of a good thing, we get all thrown off. So that's where deficiencies come in. We don't get enough of the nutrients that we need in our food, like zinc and selenium and iodine. And we need those to have proper mental function. So if we don't have enough iodine, for example, our thyroid gets all thrown off. And then we wonder why there's so many Hashimoto's and low thyroid and hypothyroid, all these problems that people have their thyroid, right? And when people's thyroid's thrown off, we have low energy. and our mental function and our peace is just disrupted because we feel anxious and we feel depressed. I mean, our body just goes all over the place when we're not chemically balanced. So those are main reasons. To sum it up: toxins and infections, and then the deficiencies that are really causing people to be thrown off in their chemistry.
Yeah, and you go through all of this with clients with your cerebral detox program. And one of the things I was really interested to see is you actually do hair mineral analysis with that.
Yeah, yeah, I do. So in this program, I have pre-recorded several videos. It lasts about 6 to 8 weeks, depending on how fast someone can go through it. Longer if people really, want to dive through. Some of my presentations are up to like an hour and a half long. So we dive through the program week by week. I do a coaching program with it, and then we peel the layers. I mean, it literally is like layers we're peeling every week of making sure people are sleeping, making sure they're pooping, making sure they're passing the parasites, and really looking at the whole picture, mind, body, and spirit. And then, as you mentioned, the testing that comes along with it too is crucial. So a lot of times in the beginning, there's so much that can be done without even doing testing. I know that's probably sounds bad for a practitioner to say, but now that I've been doing a lot of work with cell core biosciences, I realize there's a whole foundation that we can create with their protocol alone that I intertwine into the whole cerebral detox program. So so we use that, and then we can test along the way if we want. And people can test in the beginning if they're really curious. It's just about prioritizing what people can do financially as well too, because I'm not gonna lie, testing can be expensive and you already have a program like Cerebral Detox on top of that. So it's just the bill can add up if you're looking at supplements, a program, and the testing. So I like to just be mindful of that with my clients, so we can make sure that we're moving along and not letting people feel stuck because they can't do everything all at once. So the hair mineral analysis is incredible. It's something that, I mean, yes, we can do it in the beginning. I prefer to almost even do it later if we're trying to prioritize, just because we're dealing more with heavy metals when we're looking at the hair mineral analysis. Mineral balancing in general is important, but remember, we're only 4% minerals. We're mostly oxygen, mostly hydrogen next, and then carbon. And so we need to look at these other elements. And so when we're moving the obstructions with doing a cell core protocol, then then when I'm talking about that, we're moving parasites, we're removing heavy metals, we're moving other molds and candida and fungus and bacteria, etc. Then we're allowing the body to be able to absorb its nutrients more, and then all the adaptogens that are inside those supplements help to just balance those minerals out. So I like to use the hair mineral analysis as kind of like that extra leg of like, okay, well, let's just assess now that we've created a good foundation with this protocol, where are we at now? Because someone might have a huge amount of calcium buildup, which we'll see in hair mineral analysis, for example, which then to me, I'm like, well, we probably need to take a lot of extra magnesium to help lower that load. So that's where we can get more refined. And then we can see toxic heavy metals like uranium. So we talked about the thyroid and how that can get messed up. And if we're not eating enough iodine, foods with iodine, which that can be hard to come by unless you're eating lots of seaweed or blue-green algae and things like that. But the other side of it is if we have radiation like uranium, which I see a lot of in the hair mineral analysis, then our thyroid is also very much affected too. So, and that's just one area of the body. Obviously, it can affect your brain and other pieces as well. So mercury, I mean, there's a lot of things like vaccines that have tons of mercury, which I'll find, or if people eat a lot of fish and they don't work on getting rid of mercury as they're doing it, then I see buildup of mercury, especially the higher mercury type of fish. And then we have things like aluminum, which really affects the brain. So we have to make sure that those levels are all down at some point. Otherwise, our brain is going to be severely affected. And our gut microbiome too. Too much mercury will cause a candida overgrowth, for example.
So for those of you watching, if you want to see how this all plays out in your own body, and if you would like greater mental clarity, then you can check out Dr. Jacqueline's course on Cerebral Detox, and we have a link for you. Just go to yourbrilliance.org/brain detox. That's yourbrilliance.org/brain detox. Thank you so much, Dr. Jacqueline, for coming onto the show. And I wondered if you had any last message you would like to leave our viewers with.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm sure there's so many, but my biggest thing with people is to always leave hope wherever I go, because I think there's still a lot of hope, and I always will think there's hope, because I just think that's when we believe in God, it's hard to not believe in that, if we have a good perception of who He is, and so I just think that. For those of you that are struggling out there, whatever it is your struggle is, whether it's financial, mental, health, whatever it is, I mean, just keep searching for the answers until you find it, and they're there, and they'll be there. And so I don't want you to feel like you're stuck in a situation that is terrible that you can't get out of. So I've had to dig myself out of many holes in my life as I've gone on my journey of healing and trying to do business and so on and so forth. So as long as you keep trekking along, you're going to have the answers that you need.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jacqueline. And thank you out there for watching. Now, what was the most surprising thing you learned during this interview? Share it with us in the comments. And for more interviews like these, make sure to subscribe to Your Brilliance TV here on YouTube, and then come on over to yourbrilliance.com for more tips and insights on how you can live your most brilliant life. See you next time.